As Iran keeps striking back and US bases come under fire, is a visibly shaken Trump now quietly planning an exit from the Iran war he said he could control? As missiles tied to Mujtaba Khamenei's command slam into Gulf bases, is Trump's first instinct now to rush sailors and families home rather than dig in? When hundreds of sailors and their families flee Bahrain in hurry-up evacuations, does it look like Washington is bracing for a longer war, or edging toward the exits? And all this is happening while US intelligence quietly admits Iran is still poised to wreak absolute havoc across the region with what it has left. After a month of US-Israeli strikes, if roughly half of Iran's missile launchers and drones are still loaded, has the air war really changed Tehran's core capabilities? As Mujtaba's IRGC missiles find their mark on US bases in the Gulf, Trump is scrambling to get exposed troops and families to safety as fast as planes can fly. Reports say the US has already begun emergency evacuations of sailors and military families from key bases across the Middle East. According to NPR, hundreds of sailors were pulled out after Iranian missile and drone attacks hammered the US Fifth Fleet base in Bahrain. The Bahrain facility, home to the US Navy's Fifth Fleet, was hit multiple times in the early days of the war, proving how vulnerable it sits to Iranian fire. That base lies only about 124 nautical miles from Iran's coast, well within range of the missiles and drones Tehran has been firing. Satellite images from late February to early March show at least 7 buildings at or near the base damaged by the barrages. NPR reports that roughly 1,500 sailors, family members, and even pets have already been relocated back to the United States. Some evacuees were routed first through Italy and Germany before being assigned to new stateside bases. Many arrived in America with only what they could stuff into a backpack, after being told to leave in a matter of hours. Officials acknowledge evacuations at other regional facilities as well, though the full list and numbers remain undisclosed. American Legion Post Vice Commander Keith Shanesy said, and I quote, "They literally told them, get what you can get in a backpack. You've got to go." They came with no uniforms, nothing, just the clothes on their back. Unquote. Before the US launched its first major strikes on Iran on February 28, around 8,000 people were stationed at the Bahrain base, underscoring how big the footprint was. US intelligence now assesses that Iran's missile and drone power is far from destroyed, warning that weeks of strikes have not broken its ability to hit back across the region. The assessment says roughly half of Iran's missile launchers are still intact even after weeks of heavy US and Israeli strikes on its military infrastructure. CNN reported this US intelligence warning, citing multiple anonymous sources who described Iran's remaining firepower as a serious ongoing threat. The same assessment says Iran still has thousands of one-way attack drones in its arsenal, giving it plenty of capacity for further waves of strikes. One source warned that Iran is still very much poised to wreak havoc throughout the Middle East, with enough missiles and drones left to sustain the conflict. Roughly half of Iran's missile launchers remain intact despite 5 weeks of US-Israeli strikes. Thousands of one-way attack drones have survived, leaving around 50% of Iran's drone arsenal still in play. A large share of Iran's coastal defense cruise missiles is intact, keeping the Strait of Hormuz under threat. Iran's launchers and cruise missiles have been moved underground into tunnels and caves, complicating US targeting. The IRGC Navy retains roughly half its power, with hundreds, if not thousands, of small boats and unmanned vessels left. An intelligence source says Iran can still wreak absolute havoc throughout the entire region despite heavy losses. The intel report says Iran's military has been degraded and key leaders killed, including Khamenei and security chief Ali Larijani. CENTCOM says US forces have hit more than 12,300 targets inside Iran since the war began, underscoring the scale of the ongoing air and missile campaign. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth says Iranian ballistic missile and kamikaze drone attacks are down about 90%, pointing to what he calls major progress in degrading Iran's strike power. Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell has dismissed reports about Iran's remaining capabilities as completely wrong, insisting Tehran is far weaker than some intelligence leaks suggest. Israeli officials put the share of Iran's remaining operational launchers even lower, estimating that only about 20 to 25% are still able to fire after weeks of strikes. Trump said US operations in Iran could be wrapped up in 2 to 3 weeks, suggesting the war was entering its final phase and could be brought to a close quickly.
We totally obliterated those nuclear sites. The regime then sought to rebuild their nuclear program at a totally different location, making clear they had no intention of abandoning their pursuit of nuclear weapons. They were also rapidly building a vast stockpile of conventional ballistic missiles and would soon have had missiles that could reach the American homeland, Europe, and virtually any other place on Earth. Iran's strategy was so obvious. They wanted to produce as many missiles as possible, and they did, with the longest range possible, and they had some weapons that nobody believed they had. We just learned that out. We took them out. We took them all out so that no one would really dare stop them. And their race for a nuclear bomb, a nuclear weapon like nobody's ever seen before. They were right at the doorstep. For years, everyone has said that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons, but in the end, those are just words if you're not willing to take action when the time comes. As I stated in my announcement of Operation Epic Fury, our objectives are very simple and clear. We are systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America or project power outside of their borders. That means eliminating Iran's Navy, which is now absolutely destroyed, hurting their Air Force and their missile program at levels never seen before, and annihilating their defense industrial base. We've done all of it. Their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their missiles are just about used up or beaten. Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran military, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear bomb. Our armed forces have been extraordinary. There's never been anything like it militarily. Everyone is talking about it, and tonight I'm pleased to say that these core strategic objectives are nearing completion. As we celebrate this progress, we think especially of the 13 American warriors who have laid down their lives in this fight to prevent our children from ever having to face a nuclear Iran. Twice this past month, I have traveled to Dover Air Force Base, and it's been something. I wanted to be with those heroes as they return to American soil, and I was with them and their families, their parents, their wives, their husbands. We salute them, and now we must honor them by completing the mission for which they gave their lives. And every single one of the people, their loved ones said, "Please, sir, please finish the job," every one of them. And we are going to finish the job, and we're going to finish it very fast. We're getting very close. I want to thank our allies in the Middle East, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, and Bahrain. They've been great, and we will not let them get hurt or fail in any way, shape, or form. Many Americans have been concerned to see the recent rise in gasoline prices here at home. This short-term increase has been entirely the result of the Iranian regime launching deranged terror attacks against commercial oil tankers in neighboring countries that have nothing to do with the conflict. This is yet more proof that Iran can never be trusted with nuclear weapons. They will use them, and they will use them quickly. It would lead to decades of extortion, economic pain, and instability worse than we can ever imagine. The United States has never been better prepared economically to confront this threat. You all know that. We built the strongest economy in history.